to your point about being in circles and whatnot, and learning something new and being green to things. We have another controversial issue that's happened this past week that surfaced, and let me give preference to what I'm speaking on here. Is so some of you may know them, you may not. These huge YouTube social media content creators, shits and gigs is what their show is called, and they went on a American tour, I would say. And so I'm sure they've been to America before, but they've gone on an American tour to be on other people's podcasts and whatnot. And so, and let me set this table completely before we kind of just, you know, go in and say what we have to say about it. But they were on, what's his name?
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Schultz, Flagrant Podcast with Akash Singh. So this is James Duncan and Fuhad Dawoodus. I'm probably messing that up, but Fuhad and James, and they're two British African American males who have been popping off lately. They've really been hitting it, killing it, and so they took an American tour, and they were just hitting different podcasts, popular ones throughout the country. And this particular episode actually was aired like 2 months ago. However, this past week, it's just been resurfacing and hitting headlines
It went viral.
and going crazy. And I don't think this was the episode that made it go viral. I think it was something else prior. I think they might have been on what's the song? Poor Minds around the two ladies, the two girls that live in Atlanta, but they're from Texas.
Oh
Poor
yes,
Minds. I think
and
a
they made a
clip of
comment on
them.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a clip of them, and there was like, "There's no baddies in Atlanta." Right? They did their American tour, and he was like, "Ain't no hotties, ain't no shawties out here in Atlanta for real, for real."
Wow.
And the girls were like,
That's
"Oh,"
like,
the girls were like, "Oh, well, thank God, because I'm from Texas. We just
yeah.
live in Atlanta." So, but I think that was the spark, and of course, once something sparks, now you got to deep dive the entire catalog, and so this is when the Andrew Schultz podcast interview came up, and so in the episode, and I'm gonna kind of get into it a little bit later. I'm gonna let you guys speak on it, but in the episode, Andrew Schultz and Akash, they were talking about the black girlfriend effect and what is it like being with a black woman, knowing black women, blah 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 blah. And the comparison, one of the main comparisons was talking about Travis Kelsey's before and after, right? Like Travis Kelsey had a black girlfriend winning all them Super Bowls. My man was smooth, like as some ladies would call him, he's spicy white, right? Because he got like a hint of us in him, right? A little sprinkle. His hairline was always faded. He was looking clean. He was chiseled. Da da da. Now he with Taylor Swift. He got the little biker cop mustache, and his hair is like half, like he done went the complete
It's like a
opposite
whole
direction,
different. Yeah.
right? So that's what it is. So they were talking about it, and Andrew Schultz was saying, having comments in a jokingly fashion, but in some ways he was serious, talking about, oh, you got to be tough to handle black women. Black women are this. They're very outspoken. You grow the beard because you never know, you might get punched in the face, and there's extra cushion for you. You know what I'm saying? Like just making jokes, doing what comedians do, and especially comedians who aren't black. They always like to try to get as close as they can. And so what was happening was he was asking them questions about if they've dated black women versus white women, who do they prefer, um, and going into further depths like that. So before I don't want to get my take first. So we're gonna go with it. We have a lovely black woman on the scene on the show, and this is her realm. So I'm gonna let her lead off with this topic. So Saran, in terms of everything that's happened with them, I guess I kind of want you to answer, what is your idea of the black woman or black girlfriend? I think it's black woman experience, and then what is your take on how James and Fuhad handled it?
I would say my take on the black girlfriend experience. First of all, as a black woman, it's a fact that we are the most hated species, the most hated in like the human
Discriminated,
race. We're the
disadvantaged.
most discriminated. Yes, we're basically at the bottom of the barrel. So in every aspect, not saying everyone dislikes, but that's just a universal, known thing. So I think But as a Black girlfriend, there is a lot of stigma and stereotypes of how we react. And I was kind of talking about this to my mom about there's different ways that, okay, for example, like anxiety can be presented in different ways. So how Black women, it might come off as like angry or upset, but it's more of a defense mechanism. But really we're scared, but we can't really show that we're scared because that could be like a weakness. So it might come off more aggressive of how we display, those feelings of fear versus somebody who's not Black, who might result to like crying, which is more of a more feminine, like I'm not saying weaker, but a more less
Vulnerable.
more vulnerable sense. Yeah. So I think that is a major factor when dealing with Black women is understanding like how certain situations can present and how we truly feel with like being vulnerable and things. And again, that's a defense mechanism. We have to protect ourselves in order to survive, because if we just fully go give ourselves all the way, then we won't make it. That's just survival of the
Mm-hmm.
fittest. As far as the James and Fuhad situation, um, of course they sent out an apology after whatever, but I mean, how authentic is that? And they in the apology they mentioned something like it's fight or flight. Like you just want to get over the conversation. You're so uncomfortable in the moment. And it's like if you were that uncomfortable, there's several steps you could have took. You could have been like, maybe we shouldn't air this content. Could you take that out? Like I don't feel comfortable with you airing that. But I feel like they just said those things in order to cover their back once it came out to the public. And it's like you were right there in his face. If you can't even, as a man, if you can't even be like, I don't really like this conversation, change the subject, or stand up for us in that moment, what's the point of coming after the fact when you're away from the situation and being like, no, I support Black women. It's not even about that. Like you could have kept that at that point. Because the impact is being able to do it on the spot. I'm not saying everybody is built for confrontation, but if you claim that you felt fight or flight in the instance after the podcast was recorded, you could have been like, I don't know about that little segment that we did there. It's uncomfortable. And with Andrew Schultz, like you said, certain comedians do make fun of certain stuff, but we know he doesn't have firsthand experience with a Black woman. He dates white women. So, or other races. I'll say other races. Maybe they're not all white. So he's getting his jokes from his homeboys. Like he's getting his jokes from other Black men who are fueling those stereotypes of Black women, which is also problematic, but such is life. Everybody does it in one way or another. But yeah, so I wouldn't even take Andrew Schultz. Like what he says goes in one ear and out the other. But it does hurt coming from other Black men, because it's like your mom is Black, you have sisters, aunts, uncle, like you know what I mean? So that's just my take on it. But I don't know.
Hardy boy.
Yes, I think first of all, I've heard other podcasts speak on this, and what they said was very interesting because they stated that they may not have the Black experience being over there in the UK. They're different, if
Mm-hmm.
that's possible, a different type of Black man over there in the UK. So they was really out of a fish out of water, or they weren't comfortable in the situation, or they really couldn't speak on it up other than maybe dating a sister and a Black woman and other races. So they're feeding into what they're hearing too. You know what I'm saying about America, about Black women in America. So that's really probably their reference base as well of what they have heard. I bet you they haven't dated a sister Black women. So, and part two is someone said, oh, they were so excited to be in this space. You know, it was a win by coming on his show. So you pretty much ride with whatever. You're gonna laugh. It's like the boss. You're gonna laugh at his joke, and it ain't funny. You know what I'm saying? Because you want to look good or you want to be in that space. So you want to. So of course they, missed the mark, and that's stereotypes, and it's what the black woman has to deal with on a constant. But I think that's where they lost themselves. One, they don't really know, because a UK is a different black man, and they were just so excited about this American tour, and they got on. And this guy, to you all's point, he pushes the envelope. I've watched him a couple of times, and that's his niche. That's his hook. That's how he separated himself from other podcasts. Is he pushes it all the way up to the line. And for the most part, it'd be some other brothers on there beside these two cats that be giggling right along with them. Mm-hmm. And to Saran's point, you could have checked him right there and say, "Oh no," and we could have kept laughing, but no, dog, that ain't how. No,
chill, like, all right, chill.
Right, sister. Have you dated him? Like you say, he's married to a white woman, so you can check a person right there on the low, and then keep it moving to tell him, no, that's not how I see it, and that's manning up right there on the spot. Fight or flight, then you fight right there. Because if it's not true, and you don't have to laugh, if you feel uncomfortable with it, then you gotta man up and put that, especially when it comes to black women, your mothers, your sisters, your aunts. You got to stand up, man. I'm sorry. You can't giggle and allow that to just breeze on past that. No, you have to check that, man. And that's the mistake they made. And to their defense, they're not used to that, man. They really don't know, because they don't deal with it on a constant. I don't think.
Yeah, man. So you both said some interesting things, and I, like you, Hardy Boy, been watching podcasts. I've been doing my research, trying to understand a little bit more. And, I'm going to look at it two ways. My first way, in terms of, I guess, sympathizing for them, right, is you're right. I think that European black people and African Americans, they have vastly different cultures, right? Well, one of the main things being, in America, our culture is a lot more generational heavy, right? Generational traumas, generational leverage, anything historically over here. We have a civil war within our own country based on races and the birth of this country. And so generally we are already thinking in a mindset of, you either support your own or you're a traitor, meaning, and that's to anything, and that's for anything. When a black woman dates a white man, when a black man dates a white woman, it's uproar, right? We immediately talk about it. It's plastered, and whether it makes the news or not, this is what's being talked about in the homes. You bring a white girl to the house, you gotta prepare shawty in the car ride over to say, yo, it's about to be real once we walk in these doors and you meet my cousins, my aunties, my sister, all of them. So, whereas in the UK, I don't think interracial relationships are that big of a deal for a couple reasons. One, a lot of the black people over there are still somewhat tied to their African roots, meaning they know kind of where they come from. Their parents are still somewhat of African descent. They can literally speak to it in a lot of ways. One, because it's connected kind of closer, but also the travel. A lot of them go from Africa to these other countries, for better opportunities to make it out, whether that's soccer or business or whatever. You kind of come there, and then, life is life. One thing I did hear when I was talking to some of my friends and peers that are overseas is the discrimination that's happening over there is more so colorism. So not so much of a black and white thing, but kind of you're the light skinned black versus the dark skinned black. And it's also social classes, right? So we in America have a capitalistic mindset, right? You can get rich quick, or I'm gonna be an NBA star, or I'm gonna be a rapper, or something that's gonna get me to my money, my millions, and then I can get my mom and dad to retire. They good. Whereas over there, moving up and down on social classes is not really a thing. You know what I'm saying? So where you come in is where pretty much where you stay, and so there's a hierarchical level. So that's one thing I would say that in their defense, no, they don't know because they don't have that American culture, that American history of understanding what that conversation really means.
Right.
In terms of if you watch it, they were kind of uneasy, and if you honestly watch from the beginning, they were giggling and laughing because I know some people's anxiety or
But it was
uncomfortable.
like ooh.
Yeah, like it was like uncomfortable. Like we're laughing it off, but it's like, and even still, they didn't answer initially. They were like, we love all women. You know what I'm saying? They were trying to be what they thought was politically or PR correct, and again, Andrew Schultz took it. It was like, oh, yep, you hesitated, so you must like white women. We know you ain't got to say it. We know what you're trying. And then again, laughing, and again, one of the, I was watching some of the other, I think another host on there is a black dude, an American black dude. So now it's like, okay, he didn't say nothing. So the UK people are kind of like, okay, maybe we're good because if he ain't say nothing, and not saying they're not aware, because I'm sure they are aware of what goes on in America. It is what it is. Everyone knows. And my last thing in terms of for them is these questions and stuff is not the audience or the community that they speak to, right? Like this is not, a lot of their stuff is like funny jokes or funny interactions or reactions to certain things on social media. So when you come to a show kind of prepared to talk about you or something that you do, and then the host kind of bombards you or flips the script or like puts you in a realm that you're unfamiliar with now you're like, and you're really like manic and you start malfunctioning and you don't know what to do. So, and to your point, Hardy, this was a show that they thought that, Andrew Schultz is a big name. And to be honest, I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen a lot of his comedy. I think he's funny. I think he's a real funny dude. He's definitely edgy. He pushes the lines, not only with black people, but he does it with all races, and he goes in. And I've always said it, comedians are probably the last art that can kind of say what it is to the surface level, and they get a pass because, it's coming at you in jokes. You're going to get shot or get shots fired at you. Where I flipped the script on it, and again, no fault to them, but where I flipped the script on it is that at the end of the day, though, and to Saron's point, there was a couple things, and maybe Andrew Schultz did not do them justice, but there was a couple things Saron talked about. You have black members in your family. Fuhad for sure, bro. You're a black bear. Ain't no way. You a black bear, and there's no other black bear in your family, right? Your mom, your aunt, your sisters, whoever. You have that in your family. So for you to allow that to continue on and to talk like that, and he even went into conversations about the Nigerian culture, and he kind of took that a little far, and they're kind of offended as well. My other thing to Saron's point is that this apology came 2 months later, right? So the sincerity or the authenticity of this apology doesn't, because you would have let it slide.
You just got caught. Exactly.
Had it not, because this is 2 months later, you would have let this slide had it not resurfaced, and now it's hitting your brand, it's hitting your community, it's affecting your bottom line now. Because people are probably unsubscribing or removing themselves from you or putting defamation comments under your name. So now you as a PR analyst would do, you got to come up with something to help your situation. And then my last point to this is this idea of kind of owning up. They said that Andrew Schultz said they wanted to remove a couple segments from the episode, but apparently the one where they're giggling and laughing like this wasn't even talked about. Now, do I believe that? I don't know, because again, Andrew Schultz is edgy and he's going for his ratings. So they could have said, hey, we don't want this clip or this episode or pieces of this scene or portrayed about us. And he could have still shipped it out anyways. But again, say that up front. Get ahead of it. Because, and I know in their eyes it was like, oh, that's admitting guilt that we even did it. But you got to your point, Hardy, payment now, payment later. You got to either get it now or later. You didn't do it during the show. You didn't put your foot down and say, yo, we're not going to answer these questions. Move on. Because they swear they was like, move on, move on, move on the whole episode every time they were asking something. But you could either A, remove yourself altogether from the show. And I know that's tough because you're trying to fit in. This is a big name, right? So that's a tough thing to do. But, you know, at some point, you got to be a man. You got to man up. And I think someone who has a very strong take is if you go, what is it, Hardy? Is it Pivot with Ryan Clark and his crew?
Yeah.
The 10-minute clip, and again, Ryan Clark and his team are speaking from an African-American male's perspective. So again, they do hint at some of the UK stuff, but they're speaking from an African-American male's perspective. And unfortunately, like Saran says, the Black woman is the most disadvantaged, person in a world in America, because there's so much they have to deal with, not only within the world, but within their own particular cultures and protecting them as well. And so